Hey everyone. Not my first time seeing snow this year, but it's the first measurable snowfall, they call it, at my house. We got about an inch or two on the ground now, and we're gonna get a lot of a nuisance snow that's gonna start building up. What I mean by that is we got an inch coming tomorrow, basically an inch every day, every night, with the temperatures staying the rest of the week completely below freezing. So this will probably add up to like 8 inches by the end of the week. Look at that, freezing over. Yesterday was 50 degrees, or about 10 Celsius. Cover this up for the year. Last year, on this exact day, I was driving down to Florida to visit someone in the hospital. And we didn't have snow, I don't think, at that time either. But I went down south, it was so hot. Now I look at the TV and the forecast for the country. Today in Florida, their high temperature in northern Florida is 36 degrees, which is about 2 Celsius, or at nighttime they're getting a little bit below freezing all of northern Florida. And I'm not just talking about the panhandle, I'm talking about literally the top half of the state. Southern Florida, it was showing 45 degrees. It's about 12 Celsius. And at night, southern Florida is getting down to upper 30s or about 2 Celsius. That is cold for Florida. Florida will oftentimes see this kind of thing around January, but not the first half of November. That's unusual. Wish I was down there for that. I know last year Florida got historic snow. They typically will get a couple inches every year in the panhandle and stuff, but last year they got 10 inches in one storm in the panhandle. That would have been cool to see. That would have been cool. But anyways, just interesting seeing that. And today's high temperature here in my area is 32, 0 Celsius. It's interesting to think, all the way down in Florida, it's basically the same temperature as it is here. The whole East Coast is like the same temperature looking at the map. Pretty interesting. Look how beautiful this snow is. See all the little trees that grow back? I have been trimming this. I actually didn't trim it this year because of the drought, but I got to come out here. I'm trying to make this a tunnel. See how I only trim one side of the tree, but I'm going to leave upper branches. I want to make this into a little tunnel eventually. This area here had a blowdown, I estimate, like 8 years ago before I lived here, and this is what's growing back, nice and thick. Mostly balsam fir, a few white pines, and yeah, there was also a blowdown like 3-4 years ago when I owned the property. 50 trees went down like dominoes because these bigger trees were planted by the logging company. They're not exactly the strongest the way they were planted, but they got enough space here. This doesn't ever have to actually be logged. This will do fine, but the spot that started, there's little teeny trees all over the ground. The area that had a blowdown 4 years ago, it's growing back nice. So these are my trails. I got a trail going that way, trail going this way, going around the property boundary. So this right here is my property boundary. I surveyed it. Someone surveyed it many, many years ago. I just followed what they were doing. So I got a couple acres here for the house, and I recently just purchased about another 50 acres. So this is no longer the property line. Well, it is and it isn't. Let me explain. The smart thing to do is when you buy a lot of property is do not have 100 acres or 50 acres like me against the house. I'm going to use 100 acres because it's a good round number instead of 50. So let's say you got 100 acres of land that you're adding on to your residential property. Now your taxes are going to be in the tens of thousands of dollars. What you do is, like what I did here, I kept a couple acres with the house as residential, which I will pay about $3,500 a year in taxes for the structures and that land. If this was all put into one, if my 50 acres here was added onto the house, I'd be paying probably over $10,000 a year in taxes because of how big the property is. So what I did is smart. This is a second parcel of land next to mine that I also own, which means I have 2 tax bills. This is not residential because there's no building on the second property. So the second property here is under forestry. That's what we put it under. Same thing logging companies do. So the taxes is 90 cents per acre per year. And you lock in that price for life, and you have a forester come out every 10 years to renew it. When the forester comes out, they ensure that nothing has changed. I would be allowed to cut down trees here if I wanted. Even though a lot of this is protected wetland, there's rules of what you can and can't do. So, in the protected wetland area, I purposely did that so eminent domain could never take it, and I also can't go back on my word and sell it or do something with it. You can still sell protected wetland, but you're not going to get much because nobody can really use it for anything. You are, however, allowed to put up temporary structures, which includes sheds, shipping containers. You can put certain things in protected land to use it as a camp. You just cannot build a foundation or any permanent large structure. But most of this is now going to be eventually classified as protected wetland. But the logging company with our deal is allowed to cut this down one more time. They own the timber rights for the next 10 years. Then it'll get transferred to me once these trees are big enough to get cut down one more time. And that'll actually make it more healthy because you see how close together some of this stuff is. Not much biodiversity. It's all pretty much the same type of tree. But that's how we came to our agreement. Just want to take a little walk. I haven't been down here with the snow since I've owned it. Gotta be careful I don't slip and fall down here. But see how we got a good elevation here from where the house is, and there's about 15 acres of good, solid, dry land that I could do something with. I've even had the idea of someday doing a little bit of homesteading when I'm ready to settle down, and I'd probably be able to make a living just doing things like selling firewood, eggs, honey, those type of things. But look at this. There's another hill going up right there. I have surveyed perfect areas that I want to convince the beavers to build dams. They could build great ponds in these little valleys here, and I would have no problem with that. And when you have an animal habitat, that also messes up the laws for trappers by the state. This water eventually gets down to the state-owns highway, and they might try to trap beavers that are actually living on my property. Now, with things we're going to put into place as far as animal protection areas, it will actually force the state to actually, out of their own pocket, pay for beaver-proof structures, because they legally won't be allowed to relocate anything that they know is living on a protected land like this. And that's what I love about those laws. We got a nice trickling creek right here. That is beautiful. This is further downstream from my little miniature dam and everything. It has now picked up substantially more water in the land that I didn't own before. Wow, that is big for a balsam. Oh, it's dead. Anyways, I got good hopes for this extra land here. Let's see what else we can find. I've always explored and even camped on this property. The logging company never cared, but I wanted to make sure nobody else could ever build near me. So that's why I got a mortgage and made a deal with them. So this area here, I don't think they are actually going to log this. I'm going to show you where they logged their last cycle, which was in 2016. 2016 was like 4 years before I moved here. And their next plan for thinning and doing some logging up here will probably be in the early 2030s, like I just mentioned. You see up here where the forest changes? This is monoculture planted in the 70s that we're walking through now. Up here, they didn't replant. They just let whatever grow back. So that's why it's very thick trees like that. But they are allowed to cut everything one more time, whatever they want, from this 50-acre section. And these wetland restrictions will not stop the logging company because they own the timber rights. This won't actually be protected wetland until 2036. But that will happen after filling out contracts with a lawyer and notary. A notary is someone who vows to tell the truth for people that they don't know. It's a witness, basically. Angry squirrel. But this right here is what's considered the 15 acres of drier land, although it does get a little soggy, even being up on this hill during certain times of the year. But down there is probably 30 acres of swamp that we just bought attached to it. Perfect for beavers. There's even old abandoned beaver dams I'm hoping to get them to start maintaining again. But I love the snow. It feels like insulation. First snow that I've had here all year. I did see a little bit of snow when I went up to Ontario a couple weeks back. Northern Ontario had a few inches driving around, and snow on the way. When I was driving up to Dummer's Pontook Reservoir, there was a bit of snow. Not too much though. This is the most I've seen all year. Here it doesn't even look like a couple inches. It's all stuck up in the canopy, but I wanted to make a area that nature could have that won't even get taken away if I died. That's why I did such paperwork and going through lawyers. No matter if I sell this to someone else, no matter if I die, no matter whoever might get their hands on this, it's very hard to get wetland protections to go away. Even for eminent domain, it's going to be very difficult for anything like that to ever happen. Because now that it's protected wetland, the only way you can build on protected wetland is you must prove to the state you're moving the wetland, which means you have to take land somewhere else and purposely create wetland if you want to fill in wetland. That's how it works with today's laws. But see, I just walked out in shorts. It's not actually that cold. This is enjoyable. As a northerner, I'll just walk around in shorts unless it's really cold with a wind chill. But I like this elevation that would keep any beaver pond far away from the house. I do like that. This right here, I don't think they're going to log. I don't think they're going to come down near the stream or anything. I think they're going to pretty much stay where they were before. Ooh, I don't think it's worth it. Just slipped a little bit. I'm going to head back to the house. My fingers are getting a little numb from the cold. But that's the only part of me that usually gets numb. Just wanted to show a good setup here that I'm hoping I can encourage beavers to get at. I showed in my last video without snow on the ground, the swampy areas and ponds. There's actually quite a few moose if I walk deep out here that just don't come near the house, which I was happy to find out. See, even up here on top of the hill, it's swampy. There's multiple trees uprooting. Nope, that looked like a moose track. Nope, I think that was me. That was me. Just the way the snow stuck to my shoe. These are my junk shoes. That's why you can see my toe coming out. What is this? A piece of trash I can take back with me. Looks like somebody was target practicing with it. Didn't even come through the back. No, maybe. I think that was a pellet gun or a BB gun. Couldn't even make it through the backside. It's nice to see kids shooting things like this with a BB gun instead of like shooting squirrels for no reason. I don't mind if people hunt squirrels and stuff as long as they're actually going to eat them and not waste them for no reason. I relocate all my squirrels if they damage the house. Okay, let's get back over here. I'm gonna probably have to move some of my signs further back. It's a good thing I'm walking back to the house because I'm just got a notification that my battery's gonna die soon.